All right, the cumulative practice test. Chapter 7. So here we have a parallelogram. Remember, opposite sides of a parallelogram are equal. Therefore, I can say, if we're trying to solve for x, that x minus 4 equals 2x minus 9. So if I subtract x from both sides, add 9 to both sides, okay, I get x equals 9 minus 4 is 5. So right off the bat, I know what my answer is, being multiple choice. It's got to be 5 and 8. Okay, but be careful. Make sure you know what letter you're solving for, because there's a distractor there of y being 5. Okay. Now I can also do the same thing with these two sides. Set that equal to each other. 2y minus 11 equals y minus 3. If I minus y from both sides, add 11 to both sides, I end up with y equals 11 minus 3 is 8. Answer C. Okay, classify this in as many ways as possible. Right. Well, I'm going to go by, with multiple choice, I'm going to go by removal. Okay. D, it cannot be because this is not a trapezoid. Right. Also, notice how these sides are one length and these sides are another length. Can't be a square. Again, can't be a trapezoid. So there's my answer right there. It's a rectangle, a quadrilateral, and a parallelogram. Okay, so use smart test-taking skills when you're doing this. All right, in a parallelogram, consecutive angles add up to 180. Okay, just like these two, we don't know they're 90, but kind of, if they were, they'd be 180. So that means x plus 10 plus 3x minus 2 equals 180. 3x plus x is 4x. 10 minus 2 is 8. 180. Subtract 8. 4x equals 172. Okay. And then you do 172 divided by 4, and you get 43. Now be careful. Here's 43. But notice, it does not say find the measure of x. It says find BAD. Where's BAD? That's right here. BAD, right here. So we plug that 43 in for x, and we get 53. All right. Number 4, in rhombus. Okay. Now remember, in rhombi, all of the sides are equal to each other. Just like a square, but it doesn't have to be 90-degree angles. So it says WX is 5x plus 4. WZ is 7x minus 4. But they are equal to each other because it's a rhombus. Equals 5x plus 4. So I'm going to subtract 5x. I'm going to add 4. And that gives me 2x equals 8. So x equals 4. Again, look at the directions. The answer is not 4. It says find the measure of zy, which is this side right here, but they're all the same. So you can plug this 4 in anywhere you want. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 4 is 24. 7 times 4 is 28, minus 4 is 24. So be careful, especially with the multiple choice question, that you don't just rush to the answer and get this wrong by saying the answer is 4. X is 4, but that is not the question being asked. Read the directions and answer the question asked. Okay, is a quadrilateral a parallelogram? All we know is opposite sides are equal. One pair of opposite sides are equal. Okay? Well, first off, A, it says yes because both pairs of opposite sides are congruent. We know nothing about these two sides, so it can't be that. Yes, because both diagonals bisect each other. There are no diagonals even drawn on this. Yes, because one pair of sides are parallel and congruent. That would be great if we actually had it marked parallel. So it's not that leading us to this. Now, what would have made it? Well, answer A would have looked like that. If the drawing looked like that, answer A would be correct. Both opposite pairs are equal. Or option D, if we had this, showing they're parallel and congruent, that would have done it for D. But without that, we don't have, I'm sorry, C, not D, C. That would have proven C correct. But we don't have enough information. All right, get the best name for this. So first we need to graph this correctly. So negative 8, 7. Remember, this is X and this is Y. So we go left 8 and up 7. Right there. And that's G. Then negative 3, 7. That's E. 0, 3. That's O. And negative 5, 3. M. Now, there's a few different ways to go about this. For one thing, you can get the slope of everything. Okay? So the slope of GM, the slope of EO, the slope of GE, and the slope of MO. Well, MO and GE are both horizontal lines, so they're both 0. We can count. We don't have to do subtraction. We can literally just count. So from G, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, down 4, and right 1, 2, 3. Negative 4/3. From E, we go down 1, 2, 3, 4, and right 1, 2, 3, negative 4/3. So right now we know it's a parallelogram. Okay? Now, to prove whether or not it's a rhombus, we need to prove that the sides are the same. Okay? So from G to E, we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and M to O, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So GE and MO are 5. So now we just need, if we do the scientific, wow. If we do the distance formula between GM, these two, and EO, so square root, like so, and let's plug the numbers in. Negative 8 minus negative 5. So that becomes plus. And 7 minus 3. That gives me 5 minus 8 is negative 3 squared, plus 7 minus 3 is 4 squared. That's 9 plus 16, which is the square root of 25, which equals 5. Now we do EO. Negative 3 minus 0 squared plus 7, again, minus 3 squared. That ends up being 3 squared plus 4 squared, which is the same thing. So 9 plus 16 is 25, square root is 5. So we know this is a rhombus because all sides are congruent and opposite slopes are congruent. You could have also proven the diagonals, there's a lot of other options, but that's what I went with there. Okay? On to chapter 8. Are the triangles similar? If so, which way? Well, for one thing, look, we have no sides. So right off the bat, that rules out both those answers. Okay? Now, it comes down to AA and not similar. Now, some of you might go, well, we know 60 and 60, that's only one angle, and some of you might want to be picking this right now because you only have one angle. But remember, always look and see if you can mark those special angles like vertical angles, which are congruent. Therefore, the answer is yes by AA similarity. We have two angles that are equal. Number 8. Again, we have no sides. There's no measurements. Okay? Now, we need to do some math. So 60 plus 81. Subtract that from 180. And we find out the missing angle here is 39. Well, obviously 81 and 81, 39 and 40 are not the same, so F's not going to be the same. But let's prove it. 81 plus 40, subtract it from 180, and we get 59. Okay? So the only two that match up are the 81s. So we only have one angle the same, so that's D, not similar. Two figures are similar when their perimeters have a scale factor of 3/4. That's 3 to 4. Okay? What's the scale factor of their sides? That's the same, that's the exact same ratio. Sides and perimeter have the same ratio. Now, number 10, when we get into 3 to 5 ratio, their areas, we want to square this. So that's 9 over 25. And if we would have said, if this area, this word would have been volume, okay, then it would have been 3 times 3 times 3 and 5 times 5 times 5. Okay? So we have 3 choices. Perimeter and sides are the same. Okay? Area is squared and volume is cubed. Keep that in mind. All right, find the value of x. So when we have the situation, we can literally make our fractions right there. 28 over x, 30 over 15. Now, if you see the shortcut here, you can have this done with very little work. But otherwise, we're going to do 28 over x equals 30 over 15. Now we're going to multiply and get 30x equals 15 times 28, which is 420. And if we divide by 3, we get 14. Right, sorry, divide by 30, my bad. Okay, and that's our answer C. Now, if you would have noticed that 15 is half of 30, then you would have known that x would be half of 28. Okay? Now, the other way you could have done this that would not have led to the shortcut was you could have put your fractions this way. 28 over 30 equals x over 15. Notice we're still doing 30 times x, just like up here, and 28 times 15, just like up here. It's the same situation. But the other way did lead to the possibility of seeing a shortcut. Number 12. 2 polygons are shown or similar. Find the value of x. Okay? So, here is our 1 ratio that we're trying to solve for. Okay? Now, I like to put, like I told you before, some words or abbreviations to keep me on track. Okay? Now, at this point, you could use these two together or these two. It doesn't matter. It's the same thing because they're similar. So, 45 over 27. Okay? So I'm going to do 45x equals 60 times 27. And if you do 60 times 27, you end up with 1,620. And then when you divide by 45, you get the answer of 36. And if you would have done this and 35 and 21 and done 35x equals 21 times 60, you would have gotten 1260. Kind of interesting. It's the same digits, just rearranged. No math behind that, just kind of funny. And if you divide that by 35, guess what you get? You get 36. So you could use either one of those ratios to solve for x. All right, what we have here, using the figure, find the value of a, b. Now, we don't exactly know what the triangle is, but we do. Here's my hypotenuse, okay? We don't know it for sure. It looks like this is the small side. I mean, visually, we don't assume, but, you know, and this is the medium, and this is the large. And this is half of that, which means we have a 30, 60, 90. So from small to large, from the smallest one to the hypotenuse, we multiply by 2. And going from the small to the medium, getting bigger, we multiply by radical 3. So that leads us to our answer of 2 radical 3. All right, here we know we have a 45, 45, 90. So here we're getting smaller. So we're going to divide by radical 2. In this case, you can probably see it in your head, divided by radical 2 just cancels, and we end up with the answer being 20. Okay, remember, think about whether you're getting bigger or smaller. If you're getting bigger, you multiply. If you're getting smaller, you divide. Solve for x. Again, this is the 30, so this is my small. This is my medium, and this is my large. If I'm going from small to medium, I multiply again by radical 3. Now, if my x was here, let's say I was doing that, I would still go to my small first and then multiply by 2 and get 16 radical 3. Not 16 radical 2, 16 radical 3. Write the ratio for sine of c. So remember, sine is so. Cosine is ka, and tangent is toa. Sine means opposite over hypotenuse. So it doesn't matter. We know this is the hypotenuse. It's opposite the right angle. It's also the biggest side. But from C, my opposite is over here. And this is my adjacent. So opposite over hypotenuse is 15 over 17. Now this is what I'm solving for x. So what do I have from here? This is my opposite. This is my hypotenuse. So we just talked about that being sine. Sine of 52 equals opposite over hypotenuse. My x is on the top. It's being divided by 21, so I need to multiply by 21 on both sides. So I take my calculator. I do 21 times sine of 52. And I get 16.548. 16.548. Where does it ask me to round? The 10th spot. That's right here. I look at my neighbor. It tells me to round down, which actually means stay the same, 16.5. Draw a right triangle and label the triangle. Okay, I have a ladder 22 feet long resting inside the building. It's 4 feet from the building. So that's 4. Here's the building. This ladder is 22 feet. What is it forming with the ground? Well, from this angle, this is the adjacent, this is the hypotenuse. So that's ka. So cosine of some angle is adjacent over hypotenuse. So remember, anytime I'm solving for an angle, I always hit second, sine, cosine, or tangent, this time cosine, and then just type in the numbers. 4 divided by 22. I get 79.524. It does not tell me how to round. So just round correctly. I would not put round it to 80 because it makes it sound like there's no decimal. I would round it to the nearest tenth. Or if you wanted to, the nearest hundredth. Doesn't matter, but just round correctly, please. All right, chapter 10 on circles. Okay, find the measure of A, B, C. A to the B to the C, we're trying to find this. Well, first off, this is 140, this is 120, this is 360. So 140 plus 120 is 260, which means this is 100. Now, this is actually a little bit easier. If we want to be mean, one of these answers would be 100, which is wrong. It's a very good distractor, though, because it's a very common mistake. Here's my center. That is 100 from the center. If it was a central angle, it would be 100. But this is an included angle, which means it's half of the arc measure, so it's 50 degrees. But if it had been a central angle, it would be 100. All right. Find the value of x that makes the segment tangent. So that means this has to be a right angle, which means we have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So that's x squared plus 15 squared equals 9 squared. My bad. Yeah, that's right. I did it right. No, I didn't do it right. I knew something was missing, and that was wrong. So, that doesn't make sense. Why does it not make sense? Because the hypotenuse is the longest side. And 9 is not bigger than 15. You got to remember, this is x, this is x. So this, the hypotenuse, is actually x plus 9 squared. Okay, so we end up with x squared plus 225, 15 squared, equals, we have to square this. Now, if you need to come off to the side and do it, you can and FOIL it, double distribute, or you can do the shortcut. Square the first, square the second, and then multiply and double these, because you're going to get 9x and 9x, so that's doubled, so 18x. Well, if I subtract x squared, they cancel. So I have my x's here. I'm going to subtract 81. So that's going to give me 18x equals 225 minus 81, which is 144. And then when I divide by 18, I end up with 8. Okay? Now be careful though. That's what x is. Make sure you know what it's asking for. Okay? It could have asked, what's the hypotenuse? In that case, it would be 17. But in this case, it's asking to find x, so that's 8. Find the values of x. Remember, in this situation, it's those two parts multiplied equals those two multiplied. So 3x times x equals 6 times 8. So that's 3x squared equals 48. Divide by 3. X squared equals 16. Square root both sides. X equals 4. Which statement is true about a chord and a circle? Okay? A chord, remember, goes from one point on the circle to another. And if it happens to go through the center, it's called a diameter. So it's a line that intersects the circle in exactly one point. That's not true. I just drew 2 points, okay? And that word would be a tangent. It's a line that does not intersect the circle. Well, it obviously intersects the circle right here and here. Okay? If we kept going, that would be a secant. If it kept going. It is a line that contains 2 points of the circle. That sounds good. We always check all of our choices. It is a line that contains the center of the circle. It can, but does not have to. So therefore, my answer is C. Okay? D is a true statement for a diameter, but a chord does not have to go through. Write the equation of a circle with a center. So remember, it's going to be x minus 4 squared. So right off the bat, you know D is wrong and C is wrong. And where the kicker is for the second part. This is y minus a negative 2 squared, which becomes plus. So actually, these are both right. So what's the answer here? Now here's the tricky part. This is the square root of 4, and this is 16 squared. So this is where you have to know your stuff. Okay? So remember, the formula is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared, where the center is h comma k, equals r squared. Well, if we know the radius is 16, that means we square it, not square root. So just be careful. That was a good tricky problem. A and B look exactly the same, except one's a square root and one's a square. You gotta know you have to know which direction to go. All right. ACE. Okay? Right off the bat, you know it cannot be a minor arc because it has 3 letters. It's either a major or a semi. Okay? Which means if it's a diameter, a semicircle, we're good to go. So ACE, let's see where that is. A going towards C around to E. So remember, you're going from A to E, but you're stopping off at C. So that is a major arc. We'll get to the numbers here in a second. ED, okay, that's got to be a minor arc. Right there. ED is a minor arc. AE, also 2 letters, it's going to be a minor arc. ABC cannot be a minor. It's either a major or a semicircle. So ABC, A to B to C, there's the diameter right there. So that's going to be a semicircle. Okay, now let's look at the numbers. We know AC is a diameter, which means it's 180 degrees. It's a straight line. We know this is 54. This is the supplement of 54. So if we do 180 minus 54, we get 126. Okay? Now, if you look at 54, what we have here is we have an X, which means we have vertical angles. So if this is 54, that means this is 54. Now in the lower half of the semicircle, we have 3 angles. We know this is 90. We just need to find this one, which is 90 plus 54, which is 144. And if we subtract that from 180, we get 36. Now we can find out everything we need. So ACE, okay? So remember, ACE was the 126 plus the 54 plus the 90 plus the 36. That's one way to do it. Or it's everything but 54. So instead of adding those 4 numbers, you could have just done 360 minus 54. Either way, it's 306 degrees. ED, we have that labeled. It's 36 degrees. AE, we just said, is 54 degrees. And ABC is a semicircle, which is 180 degrees. On to chapter 11. Find the circumference of a circle if the area is 36 pi. So remember, area equals pi r squared. So that means 36 is really pi 6 squared. So that means that the radius is 6. Well, circumference is pi times diameter. So we double the radius to get 12. And that makes 12 pi. Find the area of the polygon. Okay? So the area of the polygon is going to be length times width. Base times height, however you want to look at it. Okay? Now, this is 13 here. It's the hypotenuse. This is 5. We're trying to find B right here, the height. Now, if you recognize this as a Pythagorean triple of 5, 12, 13, you already know this is 12. Otherwise, you need to do 5 squared plus B squared equals 13 squared. 25 plus B squared equals 169. And then B squared equals 144. And so B is 12. Okay? So we know the height. Notice this is a rhombus. All of these pieces are equal. So there's an error on this one because the answer is not actually over there. So remember, we could actually take this, horribly drawn, and move it over here and make this basically into a rectangle with a height of 12 and a base of 13. So the answer should be actually E, 156 square centimeters. Okay. So, whoopsie, it happens. We're human too. So find the surface area of the triangular prism. So basically, we just need to find the area of all the pieces. Okay, so here's a triangle, first off, which is 8 times 15. But we have another triangle over here that's also 8 by 15. So area of the triangle, I'm going to show you a shortcut, is 1/2 base times height. So that's 1/2 8 times 15. Okay, so if we do 8 times 15, but then divide by 2, we get 60. But that means this triangle is 60 and this triangle is 60. So really, since there's two triangles, it's really, we can get rid of that and just do 120. Okay, but depending on how you want to look at it. So there's a triangle, they're both 60. Okay, so we had 120 so far. Now what do we have? We have this rectangle here. Well, this rectangle has a length here of 8 and a height here of 8, which makes it actually look a square. So it's not drawn to proportion. So that's the back is 8 times 8, which is 64. All right. Then we have the bottom, which is 15 by 8. You can see that. 15 by 8. So 15 times 8 is 120, which we already figured that out here, right? So we have the bottom, which is 120. And then we have this big old piece right here, the slanty piece. So that's 8. But we don't know this measurement. We need to find that measurement. Okay? Well, that measurement is the hypotenuse of a triangle with 8 and 15 for its sides. Okay? So we do 8 squared plus 15 squared equals c squared. So that's 64 plus 225 equals c squared. 225 plus 64 is 289. And if we do the square root of 289, we get 17. But if you knew your Pythagorean triples, 8, 15, 17 is a Pythagorean triple. So what am I saying here is this rectangle has a length of 8 and a width of 17. So 8 times 17 is 136. So if we add all those numbers up, 136 plus 120 plus 64 plus 60 plus 60, and add them all up, we get 440. So all you're doing is find the area of each separate piece that makes up the shape. That's all. Figure right shows the dimensions of a swimming pool. How many cubic feet of water is there? Well, that's easy. That's volume, which is just length times width times height. It's also the area of the base times the height, but it's the same idea. Because the area of the base, let's say, if you look at the base of the pool, is right here, 5 times 15 times the height, which is 7. That's 5 times 15 times 7. So you're just doing length times width times height. So 5 times 15 times 7 is 525 cubic feet. Volume of a cone. Leave your answer in terms of pi. So volume of a cone, remember, is 1/3 pi r squared h. Now, we don't have h, okay? With this triangle here, we have L, the slant height, but we need to find this, h, okay? Well, I think we just did that up here. It is a Pythagorean triple, so the height is 15. So basically you're doing pi r squared, and what was that r again? 8. 8 squared times the height divided by 3. Now you can type this in your calculator, 8 squared times 15 divided by 3, or 3 goes into 15 5 times, so now you just got 64 times 5, which is 320. And it said leave in terms of pi, so that's 320 pi. Number 30, our last one. Okay, so what do we have here? We have a pyramid, okay? It says square pyramid, so we know all these sides are equal, okay? The center, that means splits this, so it doesn't look like it there, but this is 5, because this is 10, right? Our slant height of this triangle is 13, so we're trying to find the height. Well, again, if you don't have the Pythagorean triples, that's 5 squared plus b squared equals 13 squared, which we've already done in this test. So that's b squared equals 144, which means b is 12. That's the height of the pyramid, 12. The area of the base, well, it's a square pyramid, so it's 10 by 10, which is 100. Okay? And last but not least, the volume of the pyramid. So remember, volume of a pyramid is 1/3 area of the base times the height. Okay? Well, the area of the base is 100. The height is 12 divided by 3. Again, 3 goes into 12 4 times, so that's 400. Okay? So again, this would be feet, this would be feet squared, and this would be feet cubed. And that's it.